The mind is a scary place. The brain is capable of doing many things that might seem ridiculous to those who've never experienced it themselves. The mind, in a way, is our reality. It's through the mind that we experience the world. But then, what is going to happen to one's reality if one's mental state derails? What many things would happen to one's body, both on the inside and outside? Seeing things that aren't there, hearing voices when no one is around, being convinced in things that have never happened before. This is what we're going to dive into today. Normal icebergs cover known media like video games and internet culture, just like the ones I've done before, but today we shall do something different. We shall explore the depths of the mind. We shall take a look into psychology, mental, and scientific reasons behind mental illnesses. And I should be good at science since everyone thinks I sound like a Half-Life scientist. Ah, Freeman, you think we should appeal to the alien authority? Also, if you didn't watch my last video, which I would guess you didn't, I'm fixing the audio problem. Sounds good? A huge thanks to Sector Preset for making this iceberg shot. You did a great job. Anyways, let's learn some more about the state of the mind. Mentally healthy. This might be the most average of the iceberg. A majority of people do not actually suffer from any mental challenge or inner demons. According to Our World in Data, it's only about 10% of people in the world who actually suffer from any kind of mental problem. This means that 90% of people in the world doesn't actually suffer from any kind of mental illness. I mean, that is basic math and you should figure those numbers out by yourself, but still, just showing. According to another study from www.oecd.illibrary, I hate these names, which I find quite interesting. 1 in 6 people in Europe have a mental disorder, while 1 in 5 have a disorder in America. When you look back at the whole world, it's only 1 in 10 who has a mental disorder. So apparently the West has more mental problems than the rest of the world. According to yet another study, yes, you're going to see a lot of these, mental disorders hit men harder than women. However, there are more women with a mental illness than there are men. Except in the USA where it's more men, but fuck it. Well, this took a detour. An important detour, but a detour nonetheless. So the moral of the tip is most people are healthy. Personal difficulties. This is the most common one of all mental disorders. Well, it isn't really a mental disorder, but more of just personal difficulties, as the name says. I mean, you do read, right? Personal troubles or personal problems refers to a problem affecting individuals as well as other members of society, typically blamed on the individual's own personal and moral failings. Examples include such different problems as eating disorders, divorces, or unemployment. So it's a problem which can trouble you, but you can still do something about it. You can fix the problem. It may be due to a conflict at work or at home, which even though they are hard and annoying to deal with, they can be dealt with if you take the time to figure it out. It's not like it's something that's set in stone, and it's not something that will affect you forever, so it's only the end if you let it be the end. This is the most common one of all mental disorders. Lower level of social maladjustment. Maladjustment is a term used in psychology to refer to the inability to react successfully and satisfactorily to the demand of one's environment. So in other words, it talks about how you can keep and maintain relations with people. A low social adjustment talks about how you can not only have trouble with making friends, but to keep them as well. It's a way of having the social knowledge needed to know what is expected of you when it comes to having a healthy and satisfying relationship with the ones that are nearest to you. A low social maladjustment is something a lot of people can relate to, and it can be caused by 3 factors, and that is one's family environment, personal factors, and school-related factors. This low social adjustment is formed from a very young age. It can be one's family members which didn't have the right social adjustment in the first place, which can have an effect on a child. It can be oneself who has low self-esteem or the likes. Or it could be one's school years, where it would normally make some friends, but a rough environment like bullies or bad teachers could prevent this. Again, just like the last one, this isn't a mental illness but a mental problem. Maladjustment is a term used in psychology to refer to the inability to react successfully and satisfactorily to the demand of one's environment. Phobias. A phobia is a fear of something specific. According to another website, about 7.4% and 5.5% of people in the world have a phobia of some kind. And again, there's a higher percentage in the West than the rest. I'm seeing a pattern here which I don't like. I don't know about you, but I expected this to be much higher. But again, there is a difference between a fear and a phobia. Generally, a phobia is an extensive fear which affects people greatly for a long period of time. People with phobias aren't just scared of things and situations, they are terrified of them. Most people with a phobia will go great lengths just to avoid the thing they are scared of, even if the thing they are scared of isn't that serious or in a great number. When people with phobias face the things they're scared of, a panic would usually ensue. Some get a panic attack, while others might faint from the horror itself. A lot of people will be scared of spiders, snakes, the dark, being judged, heights, and all the usual things you'll be scared of. Phobias are mostly caused by trauma from being a child. Also, 3 out of 4 of those with phobias have more than one phobia. Hysterical neurosis. Neurotic disorder is characterized by a violent emotional outbreak and disturbance of sensory and motor functions. Hysterical neurosis is also known as just hysteria. Hysteria is basically an episode where you can't really control your emotions. There will be a sudden outburst of anger and hatred, not that they are really angry, but because you have lost control of your emotions. These events are, however, triggered in stressed and angry situations. It can be described as a mental instability. Minor depressive disorder. Minor depressive disorder, as some might have guessed, is a less extreme depression. It's not a full-blown hit to the stomach depression, since it does not meet all the criteria to be classified as one, but it is still a serious mood disorder. To be classified as having a minor depression, you must have 2 or 4 of the symptoms of normal depression. Some of these symptoms are the following: a feeling of helplessness and or hopelessness, loss of interest in daily activities, appetite or weight changes, sleep changes, anger, loss of energy, self-loathing, reckless behavior, concentration problems, unexplained aches or pains. So it's not a halfway point between being fully depressed and just being sad. It's a half depression in a way, where we have only some of the symptoms. So in some cases it might be a very serious disorder, and in some a bit lighter yet still serious. Single panic attack. Usually a panic attack is something people suffer from over long distances of time, where they have constant panic attacks. It is, however, also possible to just suffer a single one. A panic attack is abrupt onset or intense fear or discomfort that reaches a peak within minutes. It is basically your body falling apart after a long period of stress, pain, or fear. A panic attack includes at least 4 of the following symptoms: palpitations, pounding heart, accelerated heart rates, sweating, trembling, or shaking. While constant panic attacks might be a mental problem, a single panic attack is only a problem in the moment. If you have suffered from a single panic attack, then it's most likely because you either worked too hard or been put in a difficult situation which you do not feel comfortable in. If you suffer from a panic attack, then it's important that you take a load off and try to relax. Get out of the previous situation, find relaxation and comfort, Afterwards, try to take a different approach to the situation and see if that helps. Asthenic neurotic syndrome. Asthenic neurosis, or neuroasthenia, is a mental disorder caused by prolonged physical or mental overload. Asthenic neurotic syndrome is a bit similar to a panic attack, only in what causes it, which is pressure under uncomfortable situations. While a panic attack was caused by a single event, which might overload someone with stress, fear, or the likes for a certain period of time, asthenic neurotic syndrome is caused by pushing someone's physical or mental boundaries to the extreme. This can be seen in overload of work, schoolwork, for a prolonged era of time. So while a panic attack is something that happens in the moment, asthenic neurotic syndrome is something that can be formed over a long period of time. According to Sanatorium.com, among the manifestations of neurasthenia include pain and a feeling of constriction in the head, dizziness, increase of heart rate, pain in the heart, increased blood pressure, redness or paler skin, heartburn, loss, appetite, belching, flatulence, and much more. This is mainly school students who are getting a lot of pressure from school. Not that you shouldn't try your hardest or even be pushed to your limits by the school, but if it happens for a prolonged period of time with little to no pauses, then it might be a problem. Depression. Depression or major depression disorder is probably the most known mental illness on this list. Depression is also the mental illness which most people think they have but actually don't. It is very important that you know the difference between depression, a minor depression, and just being sad. While being sad, you might have gone through a short, annoying, sorrowful, or harmful episode, which, even though it might be annoying to have, will ultimately be over again, and life will continue afterwards. Minor depressive disorder, as we have talked about before, is when you suffer from 2 to 4 of the depressive symptoms. When having depression or a major depressive disorder, you suffer from a lot of symptoms of depression, which can be seen here again. Now, a thing that have disgusted me, and have disgusted me even more after researching all of these illnesses and mental problems, are those who fake them for attention. Those who have a fake depression, as it's called. Mostly these people are just people who are sad from time to time, like we all are, who try to give as many hints as possible to their fake depression, even though there are no mental illness to be found. We have to remember that those who suffer from actual depression usually doesn't show it, doesn't really want that much attention, and usually just wants to be left alone for a bit, not be shouting compliments. Usually they take them as ironic. Truly the one who can help the most with depression is yourself. Now, this is gonna sound like a cliche, and most people with depression isn't gonna want to listen because it's that rosary, you can do it bullshit, but it ain't. Best thing to do is take some time to look at yourself. Am I depressed? Look at the symptoms and begin to think about it. Do you practice them without realizing? When did it start? How long has it been? If you don't have any of these symptoms, then your head is just under a rainy cloud. And hey, it'll be better again. If you do suffer from any of these, then try to slowly theorize about it. What could help? Why am I depressed? And what could end it? If you run out of ideas, then there's always someone to ring to or talk to. Find a person, a family member, a friend, and all that you heard before, and just have a chat. Maybe just try an anonymous message board or something. See if there isn't any help to be found, even if it's just a little. Dysthymia. Dysthymia, also known as persistent depressive disorder (PDD), is a mood disorder consisting of the same cognitive and physical problems as depression, but with longer-lasting symptoms. This might be a better word for what most people see as a depression, a longer period of time where people suffer from symptoms of depression. Usually it's not a romanticized thing where you fall into a deep emotional hole for a day or two, where afterwards all's gonna be good again. Sometimes people get stuck for a long time, and they don't really know how to fix it. But again, I have already talked about depression, and this is basically the thing right next to it. Generalized anxiety disorder. Generalized anxiety disorder, or just GAD, can be described as a constant worry about everything in life from money, family, safety, work, health, and more. People with this disorder generally have a constant fear of a great disaster coming upon them. Generalized anxiety disorder is just that, a generalization of anxiety. Anxiety in itself is a fear of something bad happening. But there is a difference between being anxious and having anxiety. Yeah, I know, let me explain. Being anxious is something we all experience from time to time, and it's rather normal. This could be like being afraid of doing something new or going back to a place where something bad happened before, while anxiety is a constant fear of a specific event. This could be social anxiety, where you are constantly afraid of being judged in public. But to be fair, there is also a thing known as mild anxiety, which is not a direct anxiety disorder, but is also a fright of some events. This could be stage fright or the shyness which comes with meeting new people. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessive compulsion disorder, or just OCD as everyone knows it as, is an obsession with doing a specific task or routine. It's mostly continuous routines. This could be washing one's hand too many times or walking around the block if you didn't open the door in the right way. Not only with that, but they have a tendency to fix things which they find unacceptable. This could be if one of the paintings in a room is a bit tilted. Then they will spend a lot of time on fixing it no matter what they're currently doing. Now, when I researched this, I saw a lot of people trying to cure these people. Don't do that. Give them a job which they will love. Make them an architect or a designer. There will not be a single mistake to see in that building. I think it's a good idea. They want to do it. Let's let them at it, Let them build a whole city. Also, according to Google, which might not be the best source, but still, 2.3% of people have OCD. Cyclothymia. Cyclothymia, also called cyclothymic disorder, is a rare mood disorder. Cyclothymia causes emotional ups and downs, but they are not as extreme as bipolar disorder. Actually, it's just a lesser version of bipolar disorder. Cyclothymia gives you occasional mood swings, where you go from having a very good time, where you feel like you're on top of the world, right down to being sad for a period with no real reason. Your body just swings your mood around when it wants to. There is, however, still a large period of time where you feel normal. One can think of cyclothymia like getting added feelings into one's daily life out of nowhere. Bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder can be described as an extreme version of cyclothymia. It is a disorder which drastically changes your moods in a much more extreme way than the one just mentioned. People with bipolar disorder go from having an extremely high mood called mania, where they are on top of the world and feel invincible, all the way down to what can be described as a depression out of nowhere. According to Healthline, these episodes come about with no real explanation. They come as they go. Most people with bipolar disorder aren't experiencing any episodes every day. Some people only experience an episode about a few times in their life, but others experience them several times in a year. There are generally two categories of bipolar disorder, and that is bipolar disorder 1 and 2. People with this type of bipolar disorder experience one major depressive episode that lasts at least 2 weeks. They also have at least one hypomanic episode that lasts for about 4 days. Bipolar 1, however, is described by the appearance of at least one manic episode. You may experience hypomanic or major depressive episodes before and after the manic episodes. So bipolar 1 is an extreme version of bipolar 2, which is an extreme version of cyclothymia, which is an extreme version of mood swings. You got that? Good. Remember, write notes. There's a test at the end. You better not fail. Paranoia. Paranoia is a rational and persistent feeling that people are out to get you. People with paranoia are never really sure if someone is spying on them. if they're creeping on them or following them. However, paranoia does come in many shapes and sizes, but generally they believe that someone or something is trying to do something bad to them. There are many signs that you might have some kind of paranoia in your life. It could be everything from mistrust, hypervigilance, difficulty with forgiveness, defensive attitude in response to imagined criticism, preoccupation with hidden motives, fear of being deceived or taken advantage of, inability to relax, and a lot more in that same field of direction. You can be paranoid about anything and in every single way. Paranoia can also mix together with different types of mental illnesses, like delusions and schizophrenia. Delusional disorder. Delusional disorder, or just being delusional, is a disorder where people can't differentiate what is real and what is imaginary. They generally mix both worlds together, both in the sense that they can't tell them apart, but also in the sense that things that are in one's head seem real, while in the real world they also suffer from hallucinations. People with delusional disorders also suffer from delusions. Delusions are an unshakable belief in something that isn't true or based in reality. Delusions comes in many shapes and sizes. Some people believe that someone is deep in love with someone or hate everything about them, while in reality they hardly even know the person at all. It could also be that someone believes they are of great importance and magnificence, while in reality they are nothing more than average. There are many ways that people can be delusional, all from believing that they are something great when they aren't in reality, to not really being able to find a difference between real and fake. Dissociative disorder. According to Mayo Clinic, Mayo? Whatever. Dissociative disorder are mental disorders that involve experiencing a disconnection and lack of continuity between thoughts, memories, surroundings, actions, and identity. People with dissociative disorder escape reality in ways that are involuntary and unhealthy and cause problems with functioning in everyday life. The main thing about dissociative disorder is to feel detached from your own feelings. You feel as if your feelings don't match with the current mood. They also often has amnesia about certain topics, places, and people. It can be described as if people involuntarily escaped reality as we know it and enter into some sort of dream world. You forget reality from time to time. You get sucked into your own world. Chronic hallucinatory psychosis. As the name of this illness might hint at, chronic hallucinatory psychosis is a disease whose primary feature is hallucination, especially auditory hallucinations. So it's human voices you hear which talk to you about many different things, even though there is no voice that is actually talking. It's just your imagination that is fooling you. Different types of hallucinations can occur, but it's mainly just auditory ones. These hallucinations can last from a few years all the way to one's entire life, if you were born with a disease or got it at a very young age. These people are not insane just because they can hear voices in their head. Their sanity should be fine. It's just voices talking. What they talk about, however, could differ from person to person. The fact that they differ from person to person has made it hard to pinpoint to what exactly to classify what this mental illness is. The hallucinations could give people anything from a slight depression or maybe even paranoia of some kind. Besides the voices beginning to talk, it gives a whole mixed bag of side effects. Schizoaffective disorder. Schizoaffective disorder, which is not to be confused with schizophrenia, is a mental disorder that is marked by a combination of schizophrenia symptoms, such as hallucinations or delusions, and mood disorder symptoms, such as depression or mania. According to Mayo Clinic, again with the fucking mayonnaise, this is a mix of a lot of different mental illnesses. It's a mix of schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, delusions, bipolar disorder, and way more. It is important to note, though, that there are two different types of schizoaffective disorders. There is one that prioritizes depression and one that prioritizes bipolar disorder. The causes of schizoaffective disorder is actually still unknown. We don't know what causes people to get so many different mental problems at once, although there is a theory that it is caused of one's family DNA and genetics. The exact amount of people who have this disease, whether that be extreme or mild, is unknown. It is said that there is about 1 in every 200 people, but that's still a theory. Allotrophy. What is his name? Allotrophy? Allotrophy? How to pronounce his name?
Allotrophy.
Allotrophy is a bit of a harder mental illness to find. With most of the entries on this list, you could simply search for the name and a long list of articles on professional websites would come up. But here, there aren't really that many. What I could find, however, on wordnet.com was the following. Noun in pathology, a depraved appetite for eating substances of non-eliminatory and noxious character, as in many anemic and hysterical persons. Another website called Psychology Dictionary says the following. Noun, a drive to consume improper foods or non-nourishing products. The
Allotrophy.
Tina experienced during her pregnancy was often hard to control and led her craving odd substances such as dishwashing detergent, ice, and baking soda. So it's safe to say that that is a different, almost kind of specific type of illness, where you'll get cravings for not only unusual types of food, but also things that aren't food at all. This is most often experienced by women who are pregnant, but I guess it could also happen to other people in the world. Paranoid schizophrenia. As the name kind of reveals, paranoid schizophrenia is characterized by a predominantly positive symptoms of schizophrenia, including delusions and hallucinations. These debilitating symptoms blur the line between what is real and what isn't, making it difficult for the person to lead a typical life. This is not only the most common type of schizophrenia, but is also a very dangerous one. Combining hallucinations, delusions, and a general loss of grip in reality and life with a constant paranoia that something is out to get you is a very scary combination. Yet it's a very common combination. In 2013, the American Psychiatric Association recognized that paranoia was one of the most positive symptoms of schizophrenia, not a separate diagnostic condition. Micropsia. Micropsia is a mental illness which causes problems with the visual perception of objects around one. All things look smaller than they are in reality, either making the ones with the condition feel very tall, or making everything in their life feel unnecessarily small. The causes of this condition can be anything from brain damage to disturbance in the eyes, or just problems with one optical features, or just short eyesight. Another problem could be problems with the convergence angle, where things look like they are further or nearer than they actually are. While microsevia is when everything feels way too small, then macrosevia is when everything feels bigger than they actually are. There's a common term for both of these types of conditions, which is ALWS, or just Alice in Wonderland syndrome. Hyperphrenic schizophrenia. Hyperphrenic schizophrenia, also known as disorganized schizophrenia, is a silly type of schizophrenia. While the average schizophrenia gives people delusions and hallucinations, which are usually surrounding a single theme, usually based around feelings which a person might have, like anger or sadness, hyperphrenic schizophrenia gives people hallucinations and delusions, which doesn't really have a single theme at all. Usually, hyperphrenic schizophrenia is, according to Britannica, a form of schizophrenia characterized especially by incoherent delusions lacking any underlying theme and affected that is usually flat, inappropriate, or silly. The person itself also usually has a silly, foolish, or just bizarre behavior. So, in a way, the hallucinations are really lacking a theme. Maybe the theme is the same as the feelings that the person diagnosed with the illness has, in that it's silly and random. This is also a rather new disease, being discovered only back in 2013. Reduplicative paramnesia. Reduplicative paramnesia is a mental illness where people think that certain locations, whether that be something similar or not, has been moved to a different location, exists in more than one places at the same time, or has been relocated to a different site. Most cases of reduplicative paramnesia has been connected with brain damage or other types of brain injuries to the frontal lobe. It has also been connected with things like strokes, dementia, tumors, Alzheimer's, and more. It is nothing more than a side effect of brain problems / brain damage. It is, however, still a very bizarre and specific problem to have. Koro syndrome. Koro syndrome, which is known as genital retraction syndrome in Europe and the US, is a delusional disorder in which an individual has a belief that his or her sexual organs are retracting and will disappear, despite any real changes happening to the sexual organs at all. The word koro is a Malayan word which means the head of a turtle, referring to how people think that their dick is retracting like a turtle's head. So it's not that much of a real illness as it is a paranoia that you're gonna get a micro penis. This is also apparently not something new, as there's been history of this penis mass hysteria, where people all around the old world have been anxious about their sexual organs shrinking. This isn't really a paranoia that one's penis is going to change size like it does in different temperatures, but more that it's going to continue to be small forever, or maybe not even stop shrinking at all. The cause of this paranoia can be caused by a cultural belief, a guilt over masturbation, a psychosexual conflict, or even impotence. But hey, cheer up boys and stop looking at your cock all the time. That is how I got that paranoia in the first place. Delusional parasites. Delusional parasites, as the name could hint at, is a mental disorder where people believe that they have been infected with living creatures like parasites, insects, bugs, and the likes. This is not that much of a fear or a paranoia as it is a belief. They are convinced that their bodies have been infected with pests, despite there being no signs at all. This is more than just people saying that ants are crawling on their skin. They also report what they would call phantom feelings, which help their belief. They get a feeling that bugs are crawling on their face when there are none at all, or sometimes even inside of them, under their skin. People with this disorder clearly want to get rid of these bugs, which results in a lot of self-harm. The exact causes to why people get to believe that their body is the host of a mass infection of bugs and ants is unknown. Scientists just don't know what makes people believe in it. Maybe it's a paranoia created by fear, and maybe it's even caused by excess dopamine in the brain. We don't know. Propsifnia. Propsifrenia. I fucking despise these names. Who come up? What dumbass scientist came up with fucking names like this and this and this? Who did this? Why would you do that? Anyways, this is a I can't even do. Alright, so basically it's a schizophrenia in individuals with premorbid cognitive impairment. It's basically people with a pre-existing weak mindset who get schizophrenia. These people already have a weak mindset, making it easy for them to believe in things which aren't real. So when they get schizophrenia and delusions on top of that, it becomes a bit of a problem. But the disorder itself is nothing more than that. Schizophrenia in people who have a weak mindset. Dementia. According to Alls.org, dementia is a general term for loss of memory, language, problem solving, and other thinking abilities that are severe enough to interfere with daily life. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. Dementia is therefore a bit of an umbrella term for memory loss. People with dementia can rarely remember very basic things like their name, where they are, who people are, and more. Sometimes they might even forget important things like speaking, walking, or hitting that subscribe button. Yeah, boys. It is very common with old people. As the brain gets older, it loses a lot of its functions. It is important to know that the brain gets dementia by getting damaged by disease. Dementia is a long-term disease, which means that it lasts for a long time. Jesus. It's also a gradually evolving disease, which means that it slowly begins to evolve. Fucking really. It is therefore slowly builds up with you forgetting minor things then your keys, then your home, then your spouse, and then you will wake up in a foreign bed, in a foreign room, way in the future as you've forgotten everything. This is a thing that I find kinda scary, that one day we can occasionally just wake up 40 years in the future not knowing what's going on since you've forgotten everything. Your life has happened without you remembering it. Cotard syndrome. According to the maker of this iceberg, Sector Prisa, it's a rare mental disorder in which the affected person holds the delusional belief that they are dead. They just do not exist. Some also believe they have lost all their blood or internal organs. It is therefore also known as zombie syndrome. According to udforskningsnet.dk, and yes, I do use Danish sources, how could you tell? The illness was discovered and documented by the French neurologist Jules Cotard, who did some studies on these patients. What is most fascinating is that while he was studying people who showed symptoms of this disease, it was only 45% of people who believed they were dead. The other 55% of people thought they were immortal. A complete 180. Jules did some close research on Mademoiselle X, who denied the existence of some of her body parts along the need to eat. She died of starvation. Guess he was wrong. To this day, scientists doesn't really know what the causes behind people thinking that they are stuck between life and death are. But some theories are that it's because of problems with the brain's function to process information from the real world. But it's still a mystery.